Closing gaps and closing deals with strategy that feels so real. She's my right hand, always tight planned, like a queen with a digital shield. Superpowers now the show. Alignment in my emails inside and every flow. Vision, precision, sales goddess on a mission. Superhuman me, yeah, it's AI ignition. We got brains in a pot, turning every cold get hot. You can really see with AI, I'm superhuman me. Built a playbook in a day, trained a team on a plane. Every pitch, every slide, tailored sweet like champagne. No more guessing in the dark, your lights in the path from board into revenue.
All right, thanks everyone for being here today. We are going to go ahead and get started. If anyone wants to share that song, it's funny, Matt created that. So it's a enablement themed AI generated song. We have a good group, so we're going to go ahead and kick off here. Let the other folks join while we're doing intros. So we have two wonderful speakers today, David, who runs our customer strategy, and then Matt, who is a thought leader in both enablement and AI. So David, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Larkin. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm David Lott, the head of customer strategy here at Spekit. I run a number of different things with our customers at Spekit, including our monthly customer roundtable. I run a biweekly training session. I run our nonprofit user group. I run our end user training sessions and a number of strategic initiatives, both with customers and prospects. So really looking forward to the discussion here today.
Awesome. And then Matt is a former client of mine who was an enablement leader many times over and now runs his own consulting company. So if anything Matt shares is of interest, whether or not you're a Spekit customer or not, please feel free to reach out. There is a docs section of this where you can get information. There's also a prompt guide for AI if that's of interest to you so that you can reference that. But Matt, why don't you introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Larkin. I am the founder of Sales Boost Consulting, as you said. I've been in sales enablement for a long, long time in sales and in enablement. I've worked with companies from SurveyMonkey to Teradata, some startups. My last stint was with Medallia, building programs, building teams. A couple years ago, though, a former colleague of mine said it's a lot easier to get your next customer than your next job. And I decided to take all the kind of sales theory and methodology and put it into practice. And so for the last couple of years, I've been doing fractional sales enablement. I love working with different teams and different industries, and it's been a lot of fun. And of course, learning new technologies, and AI has been a part of that. So I use it every day in my company, and I use it with other clients as well when it's appropriate. And I look forward to sharing with all of you what I'm learning in a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you. A couple of polls and we'll do an icebreaker. I'm going to do one first. Did that work? I'm a Goldcast newbie. Okay. I see people voting. I'll give it like 30 more seconds. Looks like majority is the company is either in the middle or very commonly used. Commonly used is slightly ahead, but it's pretty close. I'll try to share those results right now. That's that. And then I will open one more, which is just on your personal usage of AI. How comfortable are you? How heavily are you using it? That kind of thing. Cool. Looks like this group is using it every day, for the most part. Some folks feel like not much, but nobody is absolutely starting from zero. So thank you so much. This is helpful. I'll share these results too here just quickly. It's always difficult to do a topic like this and make it helpful for everyone because we're all coming from a different place. So I really appreciate that. Then only other thing is I'll just ask, share with the group a fun way you've used AI. It does not have to be related to enablement. Of course, it would be great if it was, but I use it to create job descriptions. I've used it to help landscape my yard, do retaining walls, change paint color. So, are you all seeing the slide? I see somebody that says they don't see everything. They don't see anything. Planned a trip to Europe. There you go. And please react. We are going to send prizes to the most creative. So if you get an idea from someone that you really like, whether it's work related or fun, react to it and we'll use that to choose who we send a couple folks something fun to. Wrote a Christmas story involving my boss. Elevator pitch in Google Gemini. What are my top skills? Cooking, build grocery list. Made it awesome. Some great ideas. So keep sharing those. We're going to proceed along, but love to hear that. I'll compile these and share them out and kind of break them out into work related and not, just so that everybody has these fun ideas. And then quick plug, we'll drop this link in chat. Most of you on here, I think you've already requested the book, but our CEO and founder, Mel Fillet, did write a book on AI in the future of enablement. We also have clients doing book clubs. So whether you're a client or not, if you'd like to order a copy of this book or have her come in and do a session, she'd be glad to. So feel free to request the book or reach out to me on that and I can help facilitate. All right, and now over to Matt.
All right, thanks, Larkin. Yeah, let's talk about leveraging Gen AI. It sounds like you all are using it quite a bit. So some of this may be a little refresher for you, but as you know, AI is changing every single day, and it's hard to kind of keep up. And I pay attention every day to it, so I can imagine what it is for others. So let's jump right in. It started really about 2.5 years ago in terms of being publicly available when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and it was a rocket launch and has continued to grow more and more. There's all these different players. This slide could have probably 10 times as many logos on it. Anthropic has Claude. Their founders worked at OpenAI and went off to do their own thing. I use Claude all the time. Of course, Facebook has Meta and Google's Gemini. Amazon, I don't know if you saw this, just this week, launched kind of their Amazon Nova. Grok is out there, lots of different kinds of AI. I did want to kind of define it a little bit about how you use AI. And that is, there's kind of the standalone ones, right? These are the ones that are chatbots, right? You literally just go to ChatGPT or Claude and you prompt it to generate text, or in some cases, even images. And so that's one way. On the next slide, you'll also see here that there's integrated features. And I really think this is how most of us are going to be using it, especially for work, as whether you're a Google house or you're a Microsoft Copilot or Gemini, they're built in. So you don't necessarily have to work on something you're writing by copying and pasting it into ChatGPT and then getting the results and pasting it back. You're going to be using it integrated in with the software you're already using, just like Spekit has built it in. And there's some real advantages to that because they can pick from the many different models that are out there based upon what they think is best for their customers. And so it also keeps everything, safe in terms of your content. So, but the good thing is the prompts and the stuff we're going to talk about really apply to either one. There's some nuanced differences between the two. So let's kind of start by talking about some AI pitfalls to avoid. And it's easy just to think that AI is great because it helps us be efficient. But I think we've all seen just having AI speed up processes without verifying whether it's actually improving rep performance or buyer engagement. It's kind of a waste of time. It actually makes it worse. And we all know this because we get bombarded every day with emails that companies are sending out using AI. And so it's multiplied. They just are sending out those bad emails way more often. And so that's going to be very frustrating. So don't just use this to be efficient. We want to be efficient, but also effective. And then, of course, the other pitfall is ignoring data privacy and governance policies. And it's been around long enough that I'm pretty sure most companies now have at least said, yes, you can use this. No, you can't use that, and rules. So you definitely don't want to be taking in customer enablement docs or customer docs and putting them into like just an open grok or meta AI just to do stuff. So be sure you follow those policies. We want to take the prompts to the next level. This really is like database, like garbage in, garbage out. And so if your prompts are garbage or they're basic, you're going to get a basic response. And I really do, as I talk to people, see they just don't know what's possible. And so they're just being very simple and they're just not getting the really good results. And so hopefully throughout today, you'll get some new ideas on things you can add to your prompts, or maybe even prompts of ways that you've never thought of using AI before. But before I do that, there's some emerging trends that are happening in 2025. And so the first one is these self-prompting models, or you might have heard it called reasoning models or thinking models. It really started a couple months ago when the Chinese company launched their open source model called DeepSeek. It was like blew up AI. Everyone was freaking out about it, partially because of how good it was, partially because of how cheap it was to actually operate, which is super important. But what's interesting about it is when you ask a question, it basically, and DeepSeek was cool, is that it shows you like line by line of everything that it's quote thinking. It's like, here's what I need to know. Here's where I need to go to get it. Here's what I should do. I should include this. And then as it kind of quickly goes through that, it will then send back like questions of saying, clarification questions like, do you want this or this? Is this something you're looking to do or change or do? And so it's in some ways it's self-prompting. And so even though we're going to be talking a lot about prompts, this technology is something that's interesting and that may change how we do prompting in the future. The way I'm using it currently is if it's a prompt I've never done before, it's an outcome I've never wanted to do before, I'll go in and be very basic in my prompts when I'm using DeepSeek or GPT-01, the reasoning model. And then I'll just wait and see what it prompts me back. And then as I've done it back and forth, I'll maybe copy a prompt that it all created together, and then I'll save it so I don't have to go back and forth the next time. But this is the big thing that's coming, and it's pretty good. I will say I would advise not to use DeepSeek in the sense of going to their website and just doing searches. It is hosted in China. When you read their terms of conditions, it's maybe not want to do that. But Perplexity is a great tool that I'd recommend if you've never ever seen it or used it. It's really built for like searching the web and doing deep research. And they have included, since it's open source, they've taken DeepSeek's and they've kind of created their own, hosted their own, and included it among their mini models. So I would recommend that. The other thing that's all the talk right now are AI agents. And so this is fascinating to watch. I think it'll be here before we know it. There's definitely different signs and previews of little things here or there. But one day, very soon, I'll be able to say to my army of agents or to my battalion of travel agents, I want to go visit my parents May 1st and I want to stay a week. And my little airline agent is going to know that I fly Alaska Airlines. It's going to know that I don't like red eyes. It knows that I like the window seat. It knows I fly into St. Louis most of the time, although if there's a cheaper fare, I could fly into Indianapolis. And it will look for when is a good time to buy. You know, my little agent for hotels knows I'm a Marriott person, and they know I like to stay across the street from the airport the night before if I have an early flight, and it will book that. The other one knows I am a Capital One's member and use the portal to book Hertz. And so it'll get my rental car ready. And all I'm doing is basically saying, I want to do this thing. And these mini agents trained in very specific things are going to go out and handle these tasks autonomously. And that's just really the beginning of what's going to be happening in the future. As a solo business owner, I can't wait to some of this put into practice. So rather than hiring assistants and things, I'll have this group, this army of agents to be able to do a lot of stuff. So it'll be here before you know it. They're making a lot of progress. All right, well, that's kind of what's futuristic type stuff, but let's get back to the basics and look at what it means to create a prompt in AI. This may sound like, well, duh, but I am amazed at how many people, because we're in a hurry, we're lazy, we just put a prompt that's so basic, like write about AI. Obviously, a much better prompt is to write a 500-word article about the impact of generative AI on SaaS sales enablement strategies in 2025, focusing on personalization and efficiency. It's better because it's more specific. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Next is we want to define AI's role. And I see a lot of people writing prompts that kind of forget this and skip over this. So you should always tell the AI who it should be. You're an idea generator. You're a brainstorming partner, right? You're an editor. You're a teacher. You're a critic, right? Provide honest feedback. Matter of fact, that's one of the ways I use AI probably the most, is to be very critical and to give me suggestions on how to make lots of different things better. You can be a role play partner. You can be a storyteller. So there's a lot of different roles, and I could probably have another 2 or 3 slides full of this, but define it. Let it know who you want it to be. The other thing you want to do is you want to match the tone to the audience. Tell it you want to be descriptive, or the way I do it all the time is make mine more concise. So I like to write a lot, so make it more concise, or make it professional. My daughter, she sent me a text message, I don't know, a couple months ago, and she's like, "Dad, I used AI in my job." She goes, "There was a customer that sent in an email and he was complaining, and I was upset because he was not being nice. And so I wrote this email to him, and I realized I can't send that email. So I asked AI to make it professional." And she said it was amazing how well it took her kind of like harsher email back and made it very professional. So you can make it informal or friendly. Humorous is always interesting. I oftentimes will ask it to be humorous just to see. It's more dad humorous, I think, dad joke kind of things. But anyway, match the tone to the audience. Let's look at the next thing we want to do, which is to provide context. The more, the better. It needs that information. Remember, these are large language models. They need lots of information to provide you with the best answers. So give us some context. Let them know who your team is. Say, our sales team includes 35 account executives across North America, varying levels of experience. We're currently ramping 5 new hires and focusing on mid-market deals. So tell it the context of the team you're wanting it to work with, or your training goals for launching a new product next month, or even persona information. Like this playbook is specifically for enterprise AEs selling into CTOs and CFOs in the healthcare vertical. So very much specific with context. And of course, even the challenges that you're running into, you want to make sure it's aware as you're prompting it to give you results. You also want to set the length. I don't do this every single prompt, but I often do because it does need that to get you what you want. So write a cold prospecting email. You'll get a way different response than if you add in less than 120 words. So you're giving it the ability to focus or to provide feedback between 1,500 and 2,000 words. I've noticed, since I use it so much for asking for feedback, is that if I don't include the length, it's going to give me maybe 200 words. And so when I say 1,500 to 2,000, now it opens up to not just providing the feedback, but even giving examples of where I can do better or say things better. So I just find it super important to set the length, create a FAQ less than 75 words. So make sure you do that. And then provide the desired outcome. Just be very specific to them. Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to improve onboarding speed for new sales reps. right? Or I'm going to boost sales rep confidence in discovery calls, or increase engagement in coaching sessions. So I'm not gonna read all of those. This will be available afterwards, but tell it what it is that you want the outcome to be. So let's jump into some example prompts so that we can see kind of how that works. I will say you should have a prompt gallery somewhere of your own, whatever tool you want to use. But if you are a Microsoft shop and you have Copilot, they have their own prompt gallery, which I highly recommend. You can filter things by the different types of questions. You can filter by the task that you want to do, or even your job role. And you have the ability to click save on it so that it's actually saved for later. And then when let's say it's a prompt that you use a lot when you're in Word. So now when you're in Word, Copilot's right there along the side, and your prompts, the ones you saved, are right easily handleable to actually try to use it. So create prompt galleries. You don't need to recreate every single time you use AI. It wastes a lot of time. Find something that works, save it somewhere, and then copy and paste it. All right, now let's move on and give kind of this example, if you will, for a prospecting prompt. So the role, we're telling AI to act as a high-performance B2B sales coach with deep experience, deep expertise in prospecting strategy, behavioral psychology, and sales enablement. What's the outcome? Well, you want to create a detailed, multi-phase improvement plan to help sales reps enhance their prospecting's effectiveness. Focus on measurable improvements in lead conversion rates, pipeline velocity, and overall pipeline health. Now, here's very specifics. Your plan should include diagnostics, right? Tactical activities, coaching techniques, relevant KPIs, common pitfalls. So that's the specifics. Then the context. Tailor the recommendations for a mid-market SaaS sales team with a 45 to 60-day sales cycle. Format your response as a step-by-step guide. Use a confident and professional tone. Keep each section under 200 words. So that's kind of an example of I've seen prompts, by the way, that are like 2 or 3 pages long, and that some of them is overkill. But at least including the role, the outcome, specifics, content, tone, and length, you're going to find that you're going to have much better results when you're using AI. Let's keep going on to the next kind of prompts here. You probably have used prompts to improve your writing, even, like I said, to make it more concise or make more narrative. But here are some ways that maybe you haven't thought of using AI to improve your writing. The first prompt: act as a time-strapped sales rep, scanning this document, email, presentation. Point out anything that feels confusing, too wordy, or unlikely to hold your attention. Suggest clear, actionable edits to make the message sharper, more engaging, and easier to understand at a glance. So it's taking something you've done and then trying to get a perspective of someone else. In this case, right, it's a sales rep who is very much always time-strapped, right? Here's another prompt for you. Review this communication as a sales leader. Does it convey the core message and build confidence in the sender? Highlight anything that weakens trust for clarity. Suggest improvements to tone, language, and overall presentation to make it more compelling and executive ready. It's like trying to be self-aware, getting another perspective, looking at your stuff, and providing feedback. So if you haven't done this kind of stuff, I would encourage you to try it out. I find a lot of value in it. All right, let's look at some prompts for brainstorming. I'm sure you do this all the time. This is kind of a very basic way of using it. You're a gamification specialist for sales training. Brainstorm 3 distinct approaches to gamifying our sales training content. Focus on increasing engagement and knowledge retention. Focus on short descriptions of how each approach works. Now, if you've used brainstorming prompts before, you know you're asking for 3 things, 10 things, and you may be only going to find 1 or 2 that's kind of good. So the more specific you can get, the better the results will be. But also just realize you're never going to write a prompt where it's just going to give you the answer and it's just perfect to go ahead and just print, right? It's at best 70%, 75%, and then you have to tweak it, adjust it from there. But it's still great for giving me ideas for brainstorming. Here's one. You're a revenue enablement professional. give me some ideas on how I can track the ROI of my new enablement sales manager training program. So that's really important to have as well. All right, let's look at some prompts to learn a new skill. Oftentimes when you're writing prompts, it really is more of not a single prompt. It's more of I'm going to do a prompt, they get a response, and then I'm going to go back and forth, which is kind of the chat part of the chat bot, if you will. I want to level up my instructional design skills to create more engaging, effective training content. So what are the top resources that are there and principles? So it will then give you the results. Then you could just ask it for clarity. You could ask it to create you a learning plan to follow. Say, I want 30 minutes every day for the next 6 weeks. Create a plan for me to leverage this information. Or if you want to strengthen your data analyst skills, whatever that would be, it's a helpful kind of tool for that purpose. All right, the next prompt we'll look at here is to go ahead. Next slide, please. So to create an image, this I did in Google Slides. And I'm sure you are like me and have spent years of your life looking through stock photos, trying to find just the right thing to make it fit. Here I wrote, insert image. And then it says, do you want to use AI, Google's AI? I said, a high quality, realistic photo of a confident salesperson in business casual attire, example, button down shirt, no tie, actively listening to a potential client in a modern business setting. They lean in slightly, showing engaged body language and strong eye contact. So as you can see, I go into very much detail here. And that is the photo that popped up. However, this was my second prompt because my first prompt, I did not include a high quality, realistic photo. And so what I got back was kind of a cartoon-like thing. So this is where being very specific helps. High quality, realistic photo. And whatever the situation and setting is, it works whether or not you're in PowerPoint. Microsoft Copilot will do this. Google will do this. There's also other tools like that do images and things like that. Midjourney is one of those that is one of the very first, really, in terms of image generation that you can go and create images. I want to highlight Ideogram, IDEO-gram. If you're not using that, it is one of the best at actually getting an image that has words on it. Because if you've tried to create anything and have a title or words on it, it is totally messed up. They're getting better, but Ideogram actually is one of the better ones. And they have a free version that you don't even have to pay anything for. All right, so besides images, you can also use AI to create trainings. I'm sure you've done this before. I've broken it out by bullets. You're an experienced instructional designer, design a 30-minute, this is the context, 30-minute virtual training for enterprise sales reps, how to create urgency during a discovery call. Use the ADDIE model to structure the training, right? So we're giving it a framework that it can follow. And then provide a detailed outline in a table format. So when you're doing these prompts, you can tell it, I want it in a table, I want it in bullets. There's all kinds of ways that it can deliver it to you. You just have to let it know what you want. All right, the next prompt we're going to look at is for icebreakers. Now, I figured since I'm giving prompts, you might want to see the actual results. Most of the prompts I gave the results were really hard to show on a screen. So here's one that would. Act as a skilled virtual facilitator. Suggest 3 inclusive, low-pressure icebreakers that can quickly build rapport and set a positive tone at the start of a virtual meeting. Prioritize activities that are easy to participate in and work well across diverse teams. So gave me 3 different results. Here's one of them. Show and tell work edition, as it called it. Grab one item on or near your desk that has a fun story or represents something about you. Then it actually gives why it works. It invites self-expression while staying professional, works across cultures and team sizes, brings a little personality into the virtual space. So kind of an example of the result of one of these prompts. All right, the next prompt that we'll look at is for sales activity. You are a sales training gamification expert. Create a game mechanic that sales reps can use to practice asking effective follow-up discovery questions for an in-person sales kickoff. So the response was pretty large, but I kind of got the summary here for you. They created a game mechanic called the Curiosity Compass. You set up multiple stations around the room. Each station will represent a different stage of an initial customer interaction or specific customer statement. So a rep goes to one, and there's a scenario card, and that will have a statement or a situation. And the rep is to ask 1 to 3 follow-up discovery questions. There's a judge there, provides feedback, and then the reps move from station to station. So, and it was very detailed. I probably had 1,000, something like that, response back of specific, all the details of what you need, instructions, and how to even provide feedback. So it was a pretty good result for just that. Prompt for a budget. I don't know if you've ever did this, but I'm not going to go through all of it, but tell it it's an experienced corporate event planner specializing in sales conferences. Create a detailed budget and putting in all the things that's required. It can deliver it to you in a spreadsheet that then you could go through and actually use. So it's a better than a blank split spreadsheet. It helps you kind of have a good first go at it. The next slide, we're going to look at, oh yeah, speaking of spreadsheets, I don't know if how you are. I am more of a PowerPoint brain than a Excel brain. So I'm fairly standard in using spreadsheets, and I've been doing it long enough. I can do the basics, but I've never really been able to figure out the more advanced features. But with AI, it's pretty amazing because not only can you tell AI exactly what you want, and then it does it. It'll actually suggest things to you. I was playing around a couple of weeks ago on an Excel spreadsheet for a training I was doing, and using it, and it can create formula columns. It can analyze the data for you, and it's pretty advanced stuff that I never would have been able to do on my own, just knowing all the shortcuts and all the other things. So I would encourage you, if you have not yet used that AI, you should. So this is a prompt for doing research. My son is an SDR at a software company, and he had created a pretty strong script prompt that he could use to do some research. And he gave it to me, and I kind of went in and tweaked it around a little bit, sent it back to him, and he's having really good results with this. So I encourage you to check it out and try it. Act as the sales intelligence Jedi Master. That was the part he had added, of course, with elite skills in uncovering strategic buying signals using publicly available data. Your mission is to investigate and identify compelling reasons why they might be exploring. Specifically, now we're going to go in exactly what you want. Surface relevant growth signals, report on the company's current size, identify any stated or inferred plans to add headcount, cite sources. That's also a key. And it's what's made AI way better over the last year is that most of them now, in particular, if you say cite sources, it will, in the response, give a link that you can click on to go verify it. It really helps because, speaking of my son, he's older now, but like when I deal with AI every day, it's like an adolescent. It doesn't do what I want it to do a lot of times. It's kind of rebellious at times as well. So and lies a lot, unfortunately. But now over the last year, and if you put in cite sources, it's going to really reduce the rate of those incorrect things that it makes up. So that's a prompt for researching. Let's look at another 1 or 2 prompts here and turn it over to questions. This is a prompt for competitive research. I'm sure you've probably done something like this before. Act as a competitive intelligence expert, analyze the competitive landscape for your company, and then identify 3 to 5 key competitors that offer similar solutions. And then, again, I'm not going to read all of that to you, but format your findings in a clear, digestible format. So you want it in a way that you can actually use. And then I think there's one more here. Prompt for role play. And I know there's specialized software that you can purchase, sales enablement software that ties into a lot of these use cases. Role plays, I think, is one of the best use cases for AI because when in the past, like trying to find someone to play the role. Now, I've been at companies that's had really good solution consultants or sales engineers who could play a buyer really well. But oftentimes, even as like a sales enablement person, I couldn't necessarily step in and act like a CFO in this thing. I don't have that experience. And so being able to tell the AI, this is who you are a skeptical and time-strapped CRO at a whatever type of company who is currently using a competitor. I'm a sales rep from this company calling to introduce our cloud optimization platform in hopes of earning a discovery or demo meeting. This is what I love though about a prompt like this. You are not actively looking to switch vendors. You've no immediate interest in learning more. Throughout the call, push back with realistic objections such as, and you throw in those things. And then to say your goal is to challenge me as a real prospect would, requiring a strong and relevant value hook before agreeing to a next step. And I've kind of gone back and forth with a few different people with this, and it does a really good job of playing an adversarial. And to take it to one step higher, as we all know, now we can talk to our AIs on our phones, and using it, whether it's in Gemini or ChatGPT or something, you can actually have a real life phone call back and forth versus just doing a text back and forth. And I think that makes a huge difference too. Anyway, those are some ideas, some things. Hopefully you got at least a couple things that you can take away from it. And I'm happy to open it up to questions.
Good. So we have a lot of questions. Please feel free, team, to use the Q&A function or raise your hand. But why don't we start with Joey's? Any guidance on the creation of prompts for an AI model that is behind a firewall?
A prompt that's behind the fire, or give me more information on that, because I mean, like some companies have, can you Google Gemini that's approved and it's technically behind their firewall. They're using Google Docs and everything is there. And that prompt is the same. I don't know of any, maybe there's another specific case you're thinking about, but.
Yeah, Joey cannot come off. I did ask, and he's on a device that he can't come off. So okay. We can circle back on that privately. A couple questions from Tommy. I think a good one is like, what are the trends that you're seeing with the customers that you're dealing with amongst various segments, et cetera?
Yeah, they're definitely, I mean, I'm not surprised that most of you are using it a lot because I do see that. I just think a lot of it's haphazard in the sense that like one person will do it one way, another person another. I'm not seeing a lot of teams coming together. I'm seeing IT departments or whatever saying, here's what you can use, but really no guidance on, how to make the best out of it. And so I also work with a lot of smaller companies these days, especially around AI, and they don't have a clue. They just know they should be doing something, and they have Microsoft Office and want to be able to use it. But I definitely think people are still, they're still trying, you don't know what you don't know. And so trying to open your mind to different use cases, I think is probably the thing that I see probably the most, is that they're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. So.
Cool. This is a good question. I don't know if you've all read the latest Salesforce report on the state of AI, but we can socialize that. Like one thing that stands out to me is like 80% of reps are using AI, but very small percentage are actually confident in the usage of it. So, another great example of a reason why enabling them on AI is so critical. But Matt, I don't know if anything stands out to you in terms of like efficacy and win rate and things like that of folks that you're dealing with.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything quite yet on that. So that is a good question. I know there are several reports that come out. The problem is, AI changes so much at the time something gets reported and out, it's kind of outdated, but.
Cool. All righty. We are going to get to like a quick product demo eventually, but I do want to make sure there's room for time on any other broad questions not related to Spekit about the stuff that Matt has shared so far. Are there any others? It looks like there's some good, insights in the chat in terms of two-way role plays, etc.
I saw one come in that was interesting. Matt, somebody asked if you have any recommendations on using AI to generate effective prompts.
Yeah, I mean, all those prompts, maybe not all, but most of the prompts you saw all were AI generated, of me going back and forth and tweaking and those kinds of things. So I have a really long one. I don't know where I stole it from, but I got it probably 2 years ago. And it is this like a page or two prompt that's all it does is to help make your prompts better. So I put that in and then it says, okay, what's your prompt? I put in the prompt and then it gives me back a much better prompt. And so I'm happy to share that out as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll turn it over to David now. While he's sharing his screen, I'll just articulate there's three primary pillars of AI in Spekit today. First is content creation. So if you're more on the admin or product marketing side, you can translate content, make it into a table, shorten it. You could take a chorus or gong transcript, have the system turn it into a customer story, things like that. And we do have like the concept of a prompt guide that you can do in Spekit as well. So that was a chat if you are a customer. The second one is recommendations. So David's going to demo it, but basically if you're in your email or conversation intelligence tool, the system will read the context of that email or recording and recommend content that you should send based on the content. So if a competitor is mentioned, the battle card would surface as an example. And the third is AI Assist, which is a search capability, which integrates with SharePoint, Google Drive, and Confluence soon, which will basically provide end users, reps, the ability to get information completely in the flow of work with AI. So you can use it to calculate pricing. You can use it to say, how do we compete against X competitor, et cetera. So David will give you a quick little demo, but other than that, please feel free to keep questions coming either on Spekit or on these other tools mentioned, and I'll keep monitoring the questions.
Thanks, Larkin. So I'm going to share a couple of examples of how we use Spekit in encompassing a lot of what Matt's points were in the presentation. A couple of things I want to call out. One, what's unique about Spekit AI is it's actually referencing only the content that's in Spekit. So it's only providing resources that users have access to within Spekit, not anything external. And so the idea that Matt shared earlier on, like garbage in, garbage out, is even that much more important when it comes to what the information is that's actually being delivered. I also want to call out that a lot of what we do in Spekit is around formatting, right? A lot of it is bite-sized. We're delivering information in the flow of work, which we want people to be able to understand and apply in real time. And so when Matt also called out the idea of matching tone, right? In our world, it's not just tone, it's also formatting. And what Larkin called out is that our AI editor actually allows for the ability to quickly stylize or format content. So I'm going to show a couple of examples, one from the user side, and then something else from the content creation side, which a lot of you on the enablement side will be able to use whether you have Spekit or not, with a lot of what Matt showed earlier. So what I'm going to show first is here you see an email that's come in basically after a sales interaction. There's a customer looking to replace their traditional existing CMS, and they're going to have to provide proof points to their CRO, right? So what happens is when I open up the Spekit sidebar or Chrome extension, the first thing that we'll do is AI recommendations are going to scour the information that's here in the actual email and provide information to me without me having to even think about what resources I should look for or look at. Right, and so you'll look, here's our CMS talk track, here's our CMS rip and replace talk track, et cetera. So all really relevant content. But I also have created a prompt library within Spekit, but I'm going to use our AI to actually find that prompt library. So I'm going to say, what is my prompt for creating a customer story from a case study? And this is a way that end users or sales reps can actually use AI to condense larger amounts of information and format it to the things that they need. So here's my prompt: create a customer story from proof points from a CRO with a case study that's available. So it's going to pull from a case study that I have available to me. And now I have the prompt that I can reuse with the AI assist. And so it's going to go and look for available case studies that meet that criteria and deliver me that summary. It takes just a second, of course, as it's doing all that information. And I was thinking about Matt's comment about the army of agents. I'm looking forward to figuring out how they can get me 8 hours of sleep a night, as well as a great vacation. So here's the story, right? CoBank, here's the industry, number of employees, the challenges they face, the goals, solution, et cetera. And I've got it all here with proof points and talking points, as well as the source that it's come from. So it's a really simple way for end users to be able to manipulate and condense bytes and more information for quicker responses and also quicker understanding of deduction on their part. I'm going to move over to actually Chorus here, and I'm going to show an example of how we can actually generate content from a script, right? So what I'm going to do is actually take the entire script and copy it. So this is just taking basically like a rough set of data, a bunch of information, and the more I am deliberate about how I ask the prompt, to Matt's point, the better the output is going to be from this actual script. So here I've copied the script. I'm going to open up Spekit and create a new piece of content. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste this into, actually, I want to do it the other way. Sorry, I want to paste and match style. And I've got it in here. And now what I'm going to do is ask, what is my prompt for creating a customer story? Sorry for the typos. From a call script. And this is a quick way on the enablement side. You have these great calls that are happening regularly with customers. A lot of folks are using this call recording software, and you have all of this great information that's happening right here in the actual script itself. So here's my actual prompt. Here's a script from a customer interview. I'm going to go to the top of the editor here and put this into asking Spekit AI. So I'm going to put that prompt in. The interviewers were Larkin and Josh. So I'm letting the AI know who's who. The customer was Jenna here. And I'm going to request a change. And so from this fairly unstructured data set, but more structured than I'll show you in a second, I'm able to generate an actual customer story that comes out of the conversation that had happened here in the script. So this will just run a second.
Let's see if AI is smart enough to catch your misspelling of Jenna's name.
Let's see. It did, right?
There you go.
So here it is, the meeting and location, the initial challenges they faced, why they chose Spekit, the implementation experience, the impact on the team, metrics and ROI. All right there with a conclusion without having to actually read that or format it. I'm going to do a similar thing with a little bit more of an unstructured data set. So here's an actual Salesforce opportunity that we just won with all of the notes and fields filled out, which I'm also going to copy here. So I'm taking all the information from the opportunity itself. And again, I'm going to go ahead and create a new spec here. And I'm going to pop in all of that opportunity information. And I'm going to say, what is my prompt for creating a customer story using a Salesforce opportunity? And so this is a quick way. Let's say we just had a win and it's a story that you can share. The customer's given you permission and you quickly want to turn this into information. Here's my prompt around, here's all the information for an opportunity that's recently just won. I mentioned that some fields were not filled out. I mentioned the details that I want in here. So I want a story that our sales reps can use to tell customers about the pains this customer was facing with the current solution and what they're hoping to achieve and why they purchased Spekit. I'm going to go ahead and request the changes here. And you'll notice that it's going to now format this into a customer story. So I've got this format here, really short. I can also say, turn this into a story, but with sections and bullets. And so I can reformat it however I'd like into the best way that it's going to be presentable or digestible by the folks that I'm sharing it with. So here's the challenges faced, objectives, etc. One last example I want to share with you is just the ability to generate something from scratch. And caveat here, these are the types of things that you're going to want to double check. But the idea is you can really create a great template or format for how you want these things to happen. So I'm going to ask the Spekit AI to please, and I will say this, some people are very nice to AI, and I'm starting to pick up on that habit by asking it please and saying thank you as much as I can. I don't know if that helps, Matt, but I think it does in some way. So please create a battle card comparing Spekit and a traditional CMS and compare features, benefits, differences, and how Spekit can win a customer over a traditional solution with talking points. So again, this is a really quick way to generate content. You can loosely throw it in there and say, generate a battle card from this information. You can obviously just generate it from scratch if you have one of those tools, but here is now my battle card. And look how nicely it's formatted from the AI without me having to do the work of editing and putting that all into tables and whatnot. So it's got feature comparisons, benefits, key differences, and talking points to win over customers. So those are just a couple of ways that, one, from an end user perspective, if you're engaging with content, you can use AI to synthesize that content, respond faster with better answers, clearer answers, and more accurate answers to prospects and to customers. And if you're on the enablement side, how you can use all of the data you have in your environment, because if you look at some of these things, call scripts, opportunity data, emails, these are things that are data inputs that are in your organization today that can feed your AI experience and really jumpstart how you're enabling your teams in a very, very quick way. So those are the few examples I want to share. I'm going to stop sharing now and go back and see if there's additional questions or any other discussion as we have a few minutes left.
There's a question about the battle card, if that competitive information was already ingested into Spekit via synced assets.
So that was not. So that actual function would be similar to me opening up Gemini or GPT-01 and asking for that information. It's going to incorporate what's in the web. I could prompt it to say, to be more deliberate about where we're pulling that content from, though, as well.
Very similar question from Joey. In the last battle card example, Spekit had specs on traditional CMS in order to do that comparison, correct?
Well, no, that's not how this is from open source. So the responses and questions that the end user was asking is coming only from the Spekit content itself. The actual content generation can pull from external sources. So this is a case where I called out like that caveat. This is where you're going to want to double check the data. So for instance, I was helping a customer build a battle card and we asked it to compare pricing with existing list pricing today. The list pricing was not what was current for today. So those are the types of details you're going to want to pay attention to. But those are also very simple edits versus creating the entire battle card from scratch as well.
Cool. Any other questions, anyone? I think this was a great session, a lot of good feedback. Thank you all very much for engaging. I did drop a line, but David runs a ton of trainings and sessions. So if you're a customer and just want more details, drop me a note and I'll make sure you get connected to David or to your CSM. And then if you're not a customer and just want a more detailed walkthrough of any of this, I did drop the demo request. There's also like a get demo button at the top. We can coordinate something a little more detailed based on whatever caught your eye. So thank you all. Okay. Chandler's asking, for Matt, are there any additional resources for learning about AI that you recommend?
So I listen to a lot of YouTube channels. Can't think of the names off the top of my head, they just show up, but they're content creators who every day are posting content about AI, and I can find my list and show that out later too with you guys. But there's just a lot of stuff, and to me, that's where I'm learning the most because it's freshest. Because anything that was written a month ago, it's probably not up to date. So unfortunately.
I'll also chat Matt's LinkedIn here. Matt shares a lot. Like Matt did a session like this for me almost 2 years ago in person in Portland, Oregon. And it's crazy like how much of the stuff that he shared then that is now just like obvious to all of us now that definitely was not obvious at the time. So Matt definitely shares good content as well. Okay. Looking at. All righty. Well, thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. We have 6 minutes left in our day, so we'll give you that time back. I'll hang out for a couple minutes if anybody else has a question. Otherwise, feel free to drop. We'll send you these slides. There is the prompt guide again in Docs here. So before you go, if you want to pull that down, you should be able to access that here if you want like the prompt guide. Otherwise, we appreciate you. A lot of good feedback. So thank you so much, Matt and David. And thank you all for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. I'm still taking notes.